Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of U.S. News by Billie. Today's date is September 20, 2023. Some of the things we'll be covering. Missing in Maui. Missing F35. Missing our rights and money. And FEMA and Walmart. Prophecy and continuity of government. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Joshua Phillips with Crossroads, Hal Turner, Clif High, Dr. William Mount, JWTV, Adapt 2030, Steve Quell, BPEarthwatch, Warzone, Daily Mail, Watchwoman 65, Real Raw News, Plus. So let's get started. We've got a lot to cover. Okay. I have a Patriot subscriber in Evansville, Indiana, who talks about the moon. And she says, yes, I live near Evansville, Indiana. I live across the river. And the last time I saw the moon was the night of the full moon a while ago. I know it's moved away. Because we're talking about earth changes and sun and moon. And I have a Patriot subscriber who says something doesn't feel right. Yeah, I think a lot of us are feeling that. And she says, in Montana, we see excavating electrical system trucks from out of state. They have out of state plates on the vehicles. And they're working on our electrical system. I have a Patriot subscriber who says, oh yeah, let's not forget about that 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate that was stolen. I think that was on a train from Wyoming to California about 6 months or so ago. Yeah, that's a lot more than was used in the Oklahoma City bombing. Yep, that's true. Okay, now we'll talk about Maui and what's been going on. Some of the children have been found and located. So, let's get started. We've got Florida, Texas, California, Texas, Florida, up, yeah, Canada, Alaska, Aleutian Islands, Hawaii, Maui, Oahu Islands. All right. So I had this from a Patriot subscriber about Real Raw News, documenting rescuing children. So I did research on that. And they did find some near Oahu, the harbor. They were in cages. So Real Raw News. The Navy SEALs rescue 15 children. They were locked inside cages. And on Real Raw News, you can read the full report of their taking down this warehouse and snipers and SEALs going in there. And they were taking them, they say, the JB regime, but that's really the deep state. And they're still looking for, so they rescued 15. We have something like 2,040 is one number I've heard. And it's possible 700 were rescued right after the Maui fire, which was August 8, rescued by the SEALs and Rangers under the white hat part of the U.S. military. That's about 70%. So I believe 700 may have been rescued right after the fire. Now they've located an additional 15, but that leaves 7, 15, 35. So approximately another 1,500 or so still missing. Now, what's coming out from Real Raw News is very interesting. They're talking about a deep state. So we know that 70% of the U.S. military is aligned with President Trump. So the U.S. military, we have 70% aligned with President Trump and the White Hats. 30% are shadow, aligned with the deep state. And make no mistake about it, we are at war. Didn't we just see 10,000 American citizens vaporized in Maui in August? Yeah. So, yeah, that's going on. So, now this new information is that this group that was in Maui and who had stolen these 15 children, put them in locked cages in a warehouse. They were being sold to slavers who were going to use them for various reasons. But this 30% of this military group that took these children was under the command of General Charles Flynn, according to Real Raw News, under Marine General Eric Smith. And so, it also says here that a Whitehead group under Marine General Eric Smith had also found on Maui a mass grave and many children, but they don't give a number. But they examined the bodies of the children, and they had been shot, and they also had flamethrowers used on them. And they're saying that this group also includes FEMA and the FBI dressing up like a National Guard. And so that's going on. All right. We are at war, absolutely. Inside the U.S. against a certain percentage of our own government and our own military. That's going on. Now let's talk about the missing plane. Okay. So a few days ago, I think that might have been about the 18th or so, we had a missing F35B stealth plane. And supposedly that went missing on 9/17. Now, the cover story that's being put out by the Marines, no one is buying. So it's saying this F-35, that's about a $90 to $100 million plane that weighs something like 15 tons. And they say, oh, yeah, we found it just 80 miles away from where we were looking for it in Charleston, South Carolina. What they show us is a deep wooded area, no burned trees, a scorched area on the ground, a few pieces of metal. No one I know is buying that story. Now, what happened on about September 17 is the pilot was ejected, and this was a takeoff in a military base in Charleston, South Carolina. The ejection on this plane can be done remotely, and then the plane disappeared. And I submit to you, it still disappeared. This is what I believe. If I had to guess where it is, I would say Tonga, which is an island between Australia and New Zealand. Now, so the pilot was ejected at the Air Force Base in Charleston, South Carolina on September 17. Then the Marines said they lost the plane and they were looking for it. And then supposedly the next day they found it 80 miles away. No one's buying that story. Now, a second story came out from Judy Byington that the pilot, the plane was loaded with nukes, and the pilot was supposed to bomb a U.S. city, and he, didn't want to follow that order, so he ejected himself and let the plane loose. Okay, this doesn't hold up either. This plane is designed for lighter weapons. If it was a nuke, it would be tactical, but that also looks like a fake story. Now, this plane has a range of 1,200 miles or 1,931 kilometers. It can travel at 1.6 Mach times the sound barrier. So, yeah, that's going on. So, yeah, the rumors are, another rumor from Hal Turner's intel was that the plane had been stolen and taken to Cuba. I'm sticking with Tonga. That's where the impression I'm getting, and I would say from God. All right. Now, the U.S. Marines, and so Hal Turner, after the cover story from the Marines came out, dropped it, said that was just a rumor about it being taken to Cuba, and the Marines have found the debris. No one's buying that. Okay. Now, my impression is that this plane was taken over by AI, possible involvement of some kind of energy bio being, and the plane has been stolen. That's what I believe. And I believe a Russian plane has also been stolen, similar, and taken over by AI and some type of bio. There were a couple of practice runs on the Russian planes. Last week, an Su-24 crashed, killed 2 pilots, and last month, an Su-30 crashed and killed the crew. In this event, apparently the AI that's taken over these planes wants to get the pilot out. They don't want the body of the pilot in the plane. Then they take over control of it. And so today, September 20, it's reported a Russian Su-34 crashed. The pilot ejected safely. I submit that plane was also stolen. So that would mean the deep state would have both a U.S. plane and also a Russian plane to then drop bombs on respective countries and say it was Russia and the U.S. and bring on that coveted World War III scenario that they so deeply want. But that's what I believe. This U.S. plane has been stolen and taken over, and I believe also a Russian plane has been stolen and taken over. So, yeah, there we go. Now, the F35B apparently carries lighter weapons and small tactical nukes. It's just a lighter, faster plane. And now we have this from Joshua Phillip with Crossroads, talking about 22 years ago. That was on 9/11. The shadow U.S. government came out with the Patriot Act, and that was to take away our rights. Yeah, under George Bush in 2001, increased domestic surveillance of the enemies of the U.S. government, like Christians and conservatives, were now being classified as terrorists. Yeah, well, we are on the hunt, definitely, for that shadow U.S. government and military, who are up to vaporizing 10,000 American citizens in August in Maui and other things. Yeah, so that's going on. And now we have this, from Hal Turner. They're also trying to put out, oh, we've got this new virus, and so expect another lockdown, and oh, another like 2,000-page so-called government document to further lock us down and control us. Now, Hal Turner's info is that a new virus, pharma for the arm, has been shipped to U.S. military bases to be used in 2023 and 2024. And that also, this is being put forth by the UN, who is currently meeting in New York, and who, to lock down citizens, they're initially talking about doing it in Australia and some other nations. If you don't have the pharma for the arm, then they lock you out of your bank account and you cannot travel on air travel. Australia and Canada. But the big thing is they deny you access to your bank account. This is if you don't get the new pharma for the arm, and they're going to test it out in Australia and Canada. Coming right up in a few months. Okay, Dr. William Mount is talking about, this has to do with the court cases. We've seen those charges against President Trump, and this is in Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia, and the DA, Fani Willis, initially on, that would be about September 18, a federal court said, she had locked up one of the members of the President Trump's previous administration. They brought charges against President Trump and 18 of his people, including his attorneys. I said, look out, attorneys, when you go to court in Atlanta, Georgia, because that court will turn around and charge you, the attorney, with the same crime of your client that you're defending, because they threw out the Constitution. They threw out all levels of law, and about on September 18, a federal court had said to the Fulton County court, what you're doing is unconstitutional. You'll also have to let out of jail that one black member of President Trump's group that you've imprisoned unlawfully. And the DA in Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia said, we're a state court. Federal court doesn't apply to us. Well, I guess someone took Fanny aside and said, yes, federal law does supersede state law, Fanny. So yesterday, September 19, they let out the one black man they had locked up. Fanny didn't like him because he was he headed up the group to secure black votes for President Trump. And she's black too. But what can you say? So that happened. And so they've let the one guy out of jail that they were unlawfully holding. So I guess eventually even people who were a little bit loose from the real world get taken down, like Fani Willis. Okay. And so, so that's going on. We've got that done. And now we have this. Okay. Talking about the U.S. economy. Now, the deep state is desperate. They want World War III. They want CBDC, digital bank accounts, so they can put in place, social credit system so they control and lock us down just like they do in China. You don't get your money from your bank account. So now, the economy is going down. BPEarthwatch brings this out. There are currently repos of cars going on at 20,000 per week across the U.S. I was astonished by that. 33% of vehicle owners are 30 days late with their payments, and 1 out of 7 are 90 days late. And now we have this from Jim Willie, PhD economist from Costa Rica. Yeah. So this has been going on too. And we have and can anticipate in terms of economy, we can see insurance going up catastrophically almost for cars, homes, life insurance. That's because our population numbers are going down, and Jim Willie had brought this out in 2022 that we had more death insurance claims in the U.S. and that it was up about 40%, and I personally verified that, so that's correct. So that means there's less population pool to share the risk group, so all forms of insurance will be going up. So that's going on. And now we have this. We had that information from Clif's Webbots about a potential attack, Webbot, attack on Denver Airport and Mount Cheyenne Mountain, where NORAD is located to defend the U.S. And Clif was saying that this would be some type of directed energy weapon, as we saw in Maui. He's talking about, I think, in October, personally, that's what I believe, but October through December time frame. Now, Clif said, I don't think they can drop a bomb or nukes because they don't have a plane. Well, now I've covered that. I believe the deep state does have planes now. And he also talked about a third location in California, and several locations in California. If they were taken out, they would take down the internet inside the U.S. for 10 years. So that would do away with CBDC. So I don't see the deep state unless they are psychopaths, but maybe they can figure that out. Otherwise, we would have to go back to our olden method of banking if we had no internet, where you physically had to go to the bank to make the deposit and use cash and checks. So yeah, that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah, so earth changes, weather changes. So we have several things going on. We do have something in space impacting the earth. We have inside the earth magma rising. I had that from God in the fall of 2020, who said pay attention to the edges of the tectonic plates because magma is rising. So we do have earth changes. Now, Adapt 2030 is bringing this out. Weather changes are coming out, and it's impacting the magnetic field of the U.S. Oh yeah, I'll put out a little bit later today a previous video I'd made, God, Clif High, and Reality, that talks about the Earth's magnetic fields. I finally located it. I'm on my third YouTube channel. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. And I found it on Rumble, one of my older sites. So I'll try to put that up on this site a little bit later today. It's very interesting. Okay, now, Adapt 2030, and I believe I've seen similar information from Ben Davidson with Suspicious Observers, says there's a second magnetic field forming. That's in our outer edges of our solar system. We do have space impacting Earth. And that was recently we saw that in Morocco earthquake, Turkey earthquake, Libya flood. And I brought that out in my last video, Earth changes. Now, Adapt 2030 believes that we will reach the height of these Earth changes in the magnetic field by about October 24. So we see things happening in September and October. And is saying in the last 2 weeks of September, we're going to see rain up. We're going to see supply chain problems. And he's also talking about the Panama Canal shipping. Now, I had brought that out previously also. So we have Mexico, we've got Panama. And I brought this out that that was from Hal Turner, that also there's less fresh water in this area to be used in the locks for the Panama Canal to move ships from Atlantic to Pacific Ocean. So it was going to take down 40 to 60% of our shipping. And he's also talking about not enough fresh water for the canal locks to operate. The governor of Panama said this will go on for another 10 months, and Adapt 2030 brings this out. For the next 10 months, we'll have these problems with the Panama Canal, and they're only going to allow 38 ships per day to pass over. Okay. Now, JWTV is bringing this out. Earth changes in the U.S. We have fissures opening in different spots in the U.S. In the southwest U.S., south central, Utah, Arizona, Texas. Some are 169 miles long. So the earth is opening up. We do have increased sinkholes. And what JW is bringing out also is in New York, they're putting in quarantine camps. And I have more on that a little bit later. Okay. And now we have this. Planet X, this is from Zeta Talk, has been seen in the Netherlands, I think Australia, Colorado, Indiana. People see Planet X, or this object that's now in the same orbit as the Earth, according to Zeta Talk. People can see it in the sky as the sun is setting. They might see it as white or yellow or blue. And also we have that information from Mike from Around the World, is regularly on Pastor Paul Begley's Thursday night program. We believe Mike works for the NSA. Talking about New York has new fault lines running through it. Zeta is talking about the New Madrid seismic zone also experiencing stress in the near future that would impact New York and New Jersey. Now the quarantine camps, Zeta is bringing this out. In this area of the U.S., several states like this, we have FEMA setting up quarantine camps to put U.S. citizens in against their will and lock them up in closed Walmart locations. And I brought out several months ago a list of Walmarts that would be closing. Walmart was a CIA operation from the get-go. And in these FEMA camps, so Zeta's putting this forth. We're going to have earth changes, social changes, the new Madrid, stress on the fault lines. They're going to put American citizens in the East Coast into these quarantine camps, FEMA quarantine camps. And this, they've already got them ready in this area of the U.S. And they include interrogation rooms, crematoriums, dorms, and they have barbed wire. So we have fence, and they have barbed wire on them pointing in to keep people from getting out. So yeah, that's going on. That's our shadow U.S. government. We are at war. It's good to understand where you stand. And also we know what to pray for and against. Now we have this. All right, so Stan Johnson, and I'll link his channel for you, has a lot of prophecies from different people talking about the U.S. being nuked by Russia, by China, by North Korea. And we saw that recent implementation of the agreement between Russia and North Korea. North Korea now has 500,000 of its troops inside Russia to help defend Russia. Russia also gave to North Korea a submarine and 10 nukes that went on the submarine. So yeah, that's going on. And so we have different prophecies from people like Henry Gruver, Dimitri Duduman from Romania, and other prophets, and showing different parts of the U.S. being prophesied to be hit by nukes, including Washington State, Oregon, California, Texas, Florida, New York, D.C., Arizona, and so on. And we have this. And the nukes are prophesied to come from North Korea and Russia and China from planes and subs in several waves of attacks, including suitcase nukes or small ones. And now we have this. So we have recently, this is from New York Prepper, and that happened on 9/17. So it was about what, 9/17, 9/18, 9/19. We had that F35B scenario in South Carolina going on. I submit it was stolen. I think the deep state has it. Okay, so on September 17, this is about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, this information came out. It's talking about a presidential doomsday plane was in the air with its transponder off somewhere in the area of northeast Kansas. And it was speculated the U.S. government was either doing a real run or a practice run to go to their bunkers in Nebraska. Also up was a stratofueler. So yeah, that was going on. Now Steve Quayle came out with this information on the same day, talking about continuity of government. If your president is out, you go to vice president. If they're out, you go to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, part of Congress. If they're out, then you have a succession line of who's next in line to be designated president of the U.S. And they move to positions like Secretary of Education, Secretary of Housing, Secretary of Health, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Agriculture, I think there was some type of sci-fi show that came out maybe 20 years ago that showed this succession being put in line. It was predictive programming in movies, and they were down to the Secretary of Agriculture becoming president. I think Harrison Ford was in that movie. And then they moved down, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Energy, and so on. I thought it interesting that Steve Quayle said, we need to be familiar with this list. Well, I wonder what's up with that. And now a short prayer. Since we are definitely at war, I've got my camo on, and going forward. So this is called Warrior Creed. I received this from God, September 5, 2023. I pledge allegiance to God the Father, creator of all. I come under the banner of God through the blood covenant of God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua. I am taught warfare by God the Holy Spirit. And we say thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray, and for goodness sakes, prep. It's good to remember that God is in charge. He has billions of his war angels on earth to help us, and he is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.